Couldn't really ask for a better week 1 Sunday nighter here than a rematch of Bills 27, Ravens 25 back in the divisional round. Plenty to talk about with this one. Obviously, we'll get into some picks and some betting angles. We'll talk Josh Allen. We'll talk Lamar Jackson, Keon Coleman, Sean McDermott. I'll tell you how you can win a parlay even when one leg goes bust. Imagine that. Ninja here from OddsShark. Joining me is ZBot from the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube channel. ZBot, I know you're pumped for the season and some more lofty expectations with your Bills, but let me ask you this, as a guy with his finger on the pulse of this team, noted dog rescuer Khalil Shakir has the ankle issue going into this one. What is his status a few days out here from Sunday, and what are your expectations for this guy come game time?
Well, Andrew, like you said, couldn't be more pumped, and you said it perfectly, that you could not open up the season better than a rematch of that divisional game, an epic game in Buffalo, under the lights in Sunday Night Football this upcoming weekend, so it should be great. In regard to Khalil Shakir, today, Wednesday, September 3rd, he returned to practice a week ago today, so he's been back fully healthy. High ankle sprain is what he suffered earlier on in the preseason session. He's good to go, though. Sean McDermott was confident in his ability to get back. He is back. He has a full week of practice now under his belt, and that's a really good sign for Buffalo because Khalil Shakir is Josh Allen's most trusted target, his top target. We're waiting for that ascension from Keon Coleman. We're waiting for that ascension from Dalton Kincaid. We're hoping the Bills get a lot out of Josh Palmer, but as of right now, Khalil Shakir, he is the solidified guy. And when you look at his numbers, he's only going into year 4. And if you look at year 1, year 2, and year 3, every single year, there is a massive step up in production. So we're hoping we get the same from Khalil Shakir this year. And if that's the case, based on what he's already done, it could be his best year yet with Buffalo.
Let me ask you about a guy that you just name dropped there, Keon Coleman. A lot of positivity around him from a good camp. Some good signs with his development, his work ethic, attitude, all the stuff you want to see. Personally, I'm on his over 750.5 receiving yards this season. But do you think this guy takes that big leap here in year 2?
I'm going to take Deion Dawkins' word for it, right? He's currently one of the best Buffalo Bill players on the roster and has been since Josh Allen was drafted. He's the leader of this offense on the line, and he said it is night and day, the difference between Keon Coleman last year and this year. He said he's not the same player, and the league better get ready. Keon Coleman came into this year wanting to make a statement. He knows last year, including the injury that he suffered, was not what he wanted to put on display. But even in the 13 games that he did play in, that resulted in 20 yards per catch for him. He only had 29 receptions on 57 targets. But when you're talking about 20 yards per catch, if his production goes up, his availability goes up, his involvement in the offense goes up, you can't help but think that the number you just mentioned there, around that 750-yard mark, you can't help but think he gets close to it because he only had 57 targets in 2024. I expect that number to go anywhere between 75 to 90.
Josh Allen obviously coming in off the MVP season, so some big responsibilities this season for sure. But if you had to make one Josh Allen prop bet for this Sunday Night Football game against the Ravens, what would it be?
So in terms of a Josh Allen prop bet, it's interesting because at his games against the Ravens, they kind of go one of two ways. Either they are really reliant on running the football, or they're kind of reliant on him just keeping Lamar Jackson off the field in a way that isn't necessarily an air raid hour type Josh Allen performance. So if I'm looking at one prop bet, I probably would steer away from throwing touchdowns on this game and look at more towards maybe pass attempts and on the under in those pass attempts. Because I think the Bills, their strategy in this one might be going heavy with James Cook. So as a result, I think Josh Allen might throw the ball less than people might expect. And you kind of just touched on something. With Allen coming off of the MVP, I think a lot of the average bettors out there are going to say, Allen MVP, Sunday Night Football at home, he's going to be airing it out. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's going to be less than we anticipate. And as a result, I think that the Josh Allen under pass attempts might be what I go with.
So over on the other side, Lamar Jackson, the number 2 player in the league per the NFL's top 100 list, dealing with a bit of a foot thing himself. X-rays basically cleared him. But do you think his mobility, his escapability will be hampered a little bit here?
I don't think so. Harbaugh seemed to be very adamant about him being fully healthy. You haven't heard much about it. I think if it was an issue, that's all you would be hearing about, really. I expect no setback from Lamar Jackson in this game. If anything, I think this might be one of his better performances just because of the animosity that's been building up, right? They lose to the Bills in the divisional round. He loses the MVP to Josh Allen. These fan bases have been going at it all offseason. I expect no hindrance from Lamar Jackson whatsoever. We'll get his A game for sure.
And lost the football a couple times in that game as well. So he will be playing with a chip on his shoulder. That is for sure. I think it's also worth noting, and again, we're a few days out here. Isaiah likely might be out for this one as well. So keep your eye on that one. Sean McDermott here. Let's say the Bills cruise to the AFC East title, but then sort of prematurely eliminated come playoff time. Would it be time to move on from Sean McDermott?
This is the age-old question, right? Every year, if the Bills don't get to the pinnacle, this is the immediate question posed, and it's understandable, right? Because Josh Allen arguably is the best player in the sport, and when you haven't gotten to a Super Bowl with him, the person you look at as the person to blame would be the head coach. They're not moving off of Sean McDermott. I mean, I think the Bills would literally have to miss the playoffs in staggering fashion in order for it to even be considered, at least in my opinion. You look at Sean McDermott right now, already has the best winning percentage in franchise history. He's not far off from surpassing Marv Levy as the winningest head coach in franchise history. 5 consecutive AFC East titles. They're heavily favored to make it 6 this year. Like I said, Andrew, it would have to be something really staggering in order for it to even be considered by Terry Pagula, the owner of the Buffalo Bills. And even then, I'd still be shocked if they were to do it. The Bills have been a victim of the Kansas City Chiefs' greatness. And who hasn't, really? You could say the same about Kyle Shanahan. You could say the same about Sean McDermott's opponent that he's going up against this weekend with Harbaugh and the Ravens. Everybody's been a victim of Mahomes and Andy Reid. I don't think the greatness of the Chiefs should result in punishment to the rest of the league, who has also been great. They just haven't been able to get to that dynasty level that the Chiefs have proven that they're at currently.
We'll get your predictions in a moment here for Sunday Night Football. But folks, if you are like me and you've had numerous parlays that have missed by one stupid leg, no more. Well, for week 1, at least, DraftKings has introduced a ghost leg parlay, meaning that if your week 1 NFL parlay loses by one leg, you'll still win. All you need to do is opt in and apply your ghost leg parlay token to your NFL Sunday parlay, and that's it. And if you aren't signed up at DraftKings, don't worry. We will drop a link down below in the description. All right, ZBot, give me a player prop for this one. Any team, any player, anything worth a sprinkle here, in your opinion?
Totally. I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, but I think James Cook over 13.5 rushing attempts is what I would play in this one for a variety of factors. So last year in the divisional game, James Cook had 17 carries against the Ravens. He only had 17 or more carries in 6 outings last year. One of them was against Baltimore, and I think it's because of what I mentioned earlier. They don't want Lamar Jackson out on the field as much as the Ravens don't want Josh Allen out on the field. It's going to be one of those type of games where can we run the ball and keep the opposing offense off the field. James Cook is going to be one of the heavy factors in being able to keep Lamar off the field. You also have to factor in James Cook's new contract, right? I think there might be a little bit of an emphasis on getting the ball to James Cook more this season than in years past. I'm not saying they're going to double his touches. That's not the type of running back that he is. But I do think we see more usage. And in a game where I think you're going to want to run the ball more than you usually do just because of who you're playing on the other side of things, this is a game where I could see him getting more touches than we're used to. I think that 13.5 number is too low. I could see him having at least 15 carries in this one, Andrew.
Let's look at the game then and your expectation, your prediction for the game. Sitting here on Wednesday afternoon over at DraftKings, the Bills, 1.5 point home faves here. Total 50.5 here in this one. Looks a bit higher, feels a bit high for me in that one here. Oddshark Computer predicting Ravens 24, Bills 22. So the Ravens eking out the rematch win, coming in under the total. But scoreline here, what are you expecting, ZBot?
I think everything you just said there is almost it is spot on based on exactly what I'm feeling here. That number feels way too high to me. These teams have played numerous times since 2018. It has only gone over that total one time, and it was the previous game that they just played in the divisional round where the weather was brutal. You mentioned it earlier, some giveaways uncharacteristic for Lamar that I think factored into an inflated score. And then you mentioned that the prediction has the Ravens 24-22. I'm seeing something very similar. I think the Ravens, unfortunately for us Bills fans, are going to eke this one out narrowly. I put a lot of stake, maybe more so than I should, or maybe more than others, in those narrative-driven elements of the football game that don't necessarily show up on the stat sheet. You have Lamar really playing a game in that divisional round that he would have loved to have back, right? You have Mark Andrews dropping that football. That was all the difference at the end. Lamar losing the MVP to Josh Allen, them losing that game overall. They feel like the Bills fan base does, where if they could just beat one another and then get to Kansas City, they need that chance in order to get to the Super Bowl. And I guarantee you Ravens fans felt like last year they could have been able to do that should they have gotten past Buffalo. So for all those reasons, they've had the Bills on their bulletin board since that game ended, and I just think that might be that much more of the edge you need in a game like this that is inevitably going to be that close. So as a result, I got the Ravens winning very closely in a game that goes under that 50.5 total.